Hello, everybody.
Howdy ho!
Howdy ho! We are back. Hello, everybody. We are back with a new episode of Translating Love with me, Wolfie.
And Danny.
With your main host, Wolfie, and the sidekick, Danny.
Co-host. Danny. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say co-host. I would say sidekick.
I see.
Side clown.
Uh-huh. I mean, you're more of a clown than I am. I would say.
Woohoo! Oh, how does it go?
Are you trying to make the clown honking?
Woohoo!
I don't know how to do it.
Thank you for the feedback, for the positive messages, for listening. Last week's episode was a little bit different because we talked to Brendan about the issues and the protests and everything that's going on in the US right now. And it's still kind of relationship based because it's a relationship between people, relationship between friends, family, whatever. So it had to do kind of with relationships.
I mean, I think not just kind of,
but
it's the relationship with human beings is still a relationship.
Right. So
and we need to love each other and take care of each other. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point? Right.
So I think giving someone a voice in this time and explaining it from their direct point of view is pretty interesting. At least we thought so.
So if you haven't yet listened to the Black Lives Matter episode of our podcast, I urge you to. And please share it. And yeah.
Yep.
It's important. It's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. The last few days have been a little tiring and a little exhausting. And I mean, so have been the last couple of weeks. With everything that's going on and the virus is still there. And we don't really know what's going to happen in the next couple of months and how everything I don't know, is going to change life. And if, going back to normal life will look like. And it's an interesting time, but it's an exhausting time. But we really enjoy doing that. So I hope you too.
Me?
No, the people.
Oh.
The people who listen to the podcast, I hope they are enjoying the podcast too.
I mean, I think if they're listening, they're enjoying it.
It's interesting. I saw today on the app where we have all the statistics and everything, that the US listeners are getting more. We started out with a lot of Austrian listeners, but I don't know if we get more listeners from the US or the Austrian listeners are dropping.
Could be.
But it's interesting, the dynamic and how, it's cool. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, we appreciate you
and
taking your time to listen to us babble about stuff.
Poop and non-poop related matter. But mostly poop. So let's get back into poop.
So, how was your poop today?
Actually, my poop was really good. Thank you. How was your poop?
I don't think I pooped yet today.
Oh, that's sad. So,
but yesterday it was fantastic.
I hope your poop was good today, wherever you are maybe right now or whatever time it is.
Maybe someone is pooping right now as we talk about poop.
Oh, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
If so, hit us up and tell us.
Please tell us how your poop was.
Today's topic is anger, as you might have already read from the title of the podcast. It's not the most fun topic, but it's an important topic, and we already talked a little bit about it on the arguing podcast episode. So it's kind of obviously they're kind of related because anger is something that comes out in stressful or in fighting situations, arguing situations. So those two podcasts are kind of related a little bit. But let's talk about our personal problems or issues with anger. Maybe you want to start?
Yeah, I don't really know what I should say. I mean, I have some anger issues myself. like I can get really, really angry
Like a heartbeat.
pretty quickly. Yeah. I don't think I get angry very often. It's more like
no.
when we're fighting or something, it goes pretty quick that I go from pretty calm to super angry really fast.
Yeah, with certain triggers.
And I mean, my anger, I get loud. I'm a loud person when I'm angry.
Yeah.
And I sometimes slam doors. I try not to do that anymore because that's one of your triggers.
Actually, it's not so much anymore, but I still don't like it.
I mean, I think it is because
it used to
the
trigger me
last
more.
time I did it, that was like one of the reasons that you told me later that you got upset and that you didn't really want to like talk to me that day.
Yeah, but it wasn't a trigger for me to getting angry. It was more, I was more upset because you multiple times said that you try to not do that anymore. Yeah. So it's not a trigger for me to get angry anymore so much.
Yeah, but I let my anger out in a more physical way, not in the sense that I like get physical with Wolfgang, but that I slam doors or that I throw things or not at him, but
you did.
Once, and it was a pillow.
No, you threw a remote at me.
Not at you. I threw it near you.
Yeah.
I didn't.
In my direction.
In your direction. Mostly because in my head I was like, I'm so mad at him right now that I want him to think I'm going to throw it at him. I would never actually throw something at you like that. In my times of anger, I threw
one of my slippers at you.
And you've thrown multiple things at me.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember the slipper. Yeah, but I mean, it's weird because I used to not be like an angry person, or like maybe I didn't really realize it, or I let my anger out a different way, but I don't really remember being super angry or something. But the thing is, I don't know, I think I have anger issues, and I can get pretty angry with certain triggers, which then results in like really negative and bad arguing or fighting, destructive fighting, as we called it in the arguing podcast, and also physical violence. Not like I will break your bones or something, but more like I'm trying to defend my personal space. And that's one of my triggers. Like if I'm feeling trapped somewhere, or like feeling my personal space is invaded, and all I want to, basically like a dog who's trapped somewhere who wants to just get out. That's how I feel. And that's sometimes I can like get more forceful. Like when I see red. That's one of my issues that I have to work through. I know my triggers, like again, when I'm feeling trapped or when I feel invaded, or not like when I feel like I can't get out of a situation right now. It's like one of my biggest trigger. But I haven't really figured out why that is, and why I also get so angry, because it's pointless. It's super pointless. But yeah, it's weird because before you, nobody really made me that angry. But then again,
that makes me feel kind of bad.
Yeah, but I think it has. I mean, we talked about it. You're the first person I'm living with, and so I always had like the
option
to just leave, to just go get into my car and drive away. And you sometimes follow me around, or like not let me out to just get away, and that's like one of my triggers. So yeah, maybe I was angry like that before, but nobody got me to that point.
Well, we're also both very passionate people,
stubborn,
and yeah, but I would say passionate in terms of, I mean, we both are very passionate, not just in the sense of like our relationship, but in general, just passionate people who care so much about the things that are important to us.
Yeah.
And that also, I think, has an effect on the way that we fight, because passionate is good, but it can also be a little destructive in those situations.
Yeah.
Where on my side of it, I'm so passionate about, I just want the fight to end. And so I try to do everything in the moment to make it end and to resolve it. But that doesn't work because I'm so heated and I'm so emotional and and all of it comes out the wrong way then. And it doesn't come out as I want to fix this. It comes out as I want to fight.
And for me, it's more like I need to get out of this situation right now to calm myself down, to come back in a calm, not heated and not emotional state. Because every time I'm still emotional, I can't fully resolve the fight. Yeah.
And for you, you don't always do that in the best. And we talked about this in the arguing episode, where you don't always do that in the best way. You don't always like put it out there that you just need a little space. Sometimes you're too direct or you're mean about it.
Yeah.
And then that triggers me, basically. So
it's like a circle.
It's a vicious circle.
It's a vicious circle, and it's really hard to break through that. But I think we got a lot better in that sense, like compared to the earlier days living together and getting used to each other. And now I think there were multiple situations where we just resolved it right away or did the right thing to let that heat pass and resolve it in a healthy, constructive way. But I mean, anger. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is angry at some point. Everyone gets heated. But I think the big issue here is to let the anger, out as it is in a really destructive and in a really mean way, because it's not only good. It's not good for your relationship, but it's also not good for your health, for your physical and mental health. And I mean,
but anger can also mean, this is more so in you than in me, but I have it too. I just have it less than you do. But in the sense of not just in our relationship, not just when we're fighting, but I'm reading this book right now because I want to not feel angry. I don't like feeling angry. I don't think anyone likes feeling it, but I feel it's so heavy that I feel it everywhere in my body, and I don't want to sit in that. And I want to be able to learn how to control the fact that so I don't even get to the point where I'm feeling so like insanely angry. And so I'm reading this book right now. It's like a little workbook to kind of start to understand your own anger. And they said something interesting in the beginning of the book, talking about you might be an angry person and not even realize that you have anger problems, because anger has so many different forms. And I think we hear the word anger and we think yelling, we think fighting, we think rage, all of these things. But technically, anger can also be that someone asks you an annoying question, or and they ask it a lot, or you're just having a weird day and you're annoyed easily, or somebody cuts in front of you when you're driving and you vocally say something about it, maybe not to the person that they can hear you, but in your car to yourself. And that's technically a form of anger. Those are all things that can be controlled. Those are all things, think about, what does that bring you? If you're sitting in the car and someone cuts in front of you and you say, "Oh, you asshole," what does that bring you? Because they don't hear you. They know what they did.
It's completely stupid. Besides having probably a high heart rate and high blood pressure in the moment, it doesn't bring you anything. And that's the point. Kind of anger is fine if it is controlled and if it is let out in a healthy way.
It's a human emotion. It's a totally normal thing to feel.
That's the thing, controlling your anger. That's the goal, kind of. And that's where I want to go. But I think that's a big part of that is understanding your anger and where it comes from. And that most of the time isn't that easy, because our anger issues probably stem from like childhood things, or like growing up, or like issues that you have never really resolved with either yourself or with other people. And I know that a lot of anger I have is stems from back of my childhood, because I feel like when I talk to certain people, when I voice certain things, for especially with my mom or my dad, there's still so much stuff going on that they both know and that we both talked about already, but it never got really resolved. There was never like a heartfelt sorry about that stuff, or like,
I mean, like between the two of them or between your relationship with
no,
them?
between the relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, especially like as I don't know, the thing is, they grew up in like a completely different world, and we have just like different mindsets and different opinions about everything, or a lot of things, and we just live a different lifestyle, and that's also a big part, because I mean, people might don't understand your lifestyle or the choices you make, and that's okay. And nobody forces them to understand, obviously, but it's already a big thing that they just respect it and just leave it alone. And if they don't do it, and if they keep asking, and if they keep questioning your choices, even though they're not bad, and even though they don't affect them at all, but they just don't understand it, so they question it, it can be frustrating and annoying. And that also spikes anger in me, at least, because I feel not respected, or misunderstood, or forced into, or they try to force me into something I don't want to do, or I don't want to be,
Yeah. But I think what's so important for you to learn is to get to a point where you don't let those things even annoy you anymore.
Totally.
Because there's, in my opinion, there's no, and granted, I have my own things that I get frustrated by that you don't. And so that you would say,
grandpa, for example.
Yeah. And so if I were you, my best advice would be to, I mean, obviously you have to find your own way of how to get there, but to get to a point where, I mean, those people aren't going to change how they are, nor can you change them.
No.
And so you need to be able to change within yourself that you no longer even get annoyed by those things, because that's getting annoyed by something is not, I don't think it's something that just automatically happens. No. I think it's a choice. I think something's going on in your body and your brain that's saying, okay, this is a type of situation that I know I've been in this situation before, and I know that I'm going to be annoyed. And so you're already getting annoyed before thing happens.
No, totally. The thing is, I know that, and I need to get more zen about that stuff. I need to get more, but I think meditating,
because
or
there has to be a way to
calming myself down in that moment is a big piece of that. Because I know I want that. That's my goal. I want to be in those situations, and everything that gets thrown at me that would annoy the shit out of me just doesn't affect me at all. That's why I want to be.
And the thing is, it can still affect you, but you don't have to express it. You don't have to.
But that's what I mean.
And we talked about this in the arguing podcast, I think, where your tone is such a big issue.
Yeah, but
at least for me, it's so your tone can be very, very triggering, because you're direct, which I think is just a thing in Austria. People are pretty direct here, but you're direct, but you have this tone that most people would see as, I'm pissed at you, or you are annoying me. And when they pick up on that, they also then get annoyed. They have their own reactions, which can also trigger you again. So it's like this back and forth that doesn't even need to happen.
No, I know. The thing is,
whereas
it's so hard.
If you can just keep a calm tone and say something like, that's fine that you think that, but, or whatever, and still be calm about it, and not raise your voice, and not talk really fast and angry and flustered. I think that's the best way to describe you, how your tone in those, you sound flustered. And so then you sound annoyed. And I think that's something that if you were able to get to a point where you don't react with that tone, if you learn how to control the tone of your voice and how you say things, I think it would not only help the other person not to react, but it would help you not to feel annoyed and frustrated.
I mean, that's true, but I even want to go a step further, and just I don't want to get anything. Like I want to get those things thrown at me, and I just want to say, like, okay, I don't care. Like I want to be completely not in any way affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to be, because it doesn't bring me anything. It stresses me. It raises my heart rate and my blood pressure, and I hate to be angry, especially for things like that. But the biggest thing for me is just the hardest thing for me is just live or let live. And a lot of people don't understand that, or try to, or understand it, but they don't do it. They're just not like, I don't know. And I think that's an Austrian problem, kind of, because Austrian people try to be, maybe it's a problem everywhere, but Austrian people try to understand everything, or if they don't understand something, that they question it automatically. They don't just say, "Oh, interesting," but they question it right away. And I find that,
I think that's good in some situations. Like if you want to learn something, that's different.
Obviously, that's different.
But if it's just because you don't agree with somebody's lifestyle, and you need to understand just so you can respect it or so you can let it be, then that's where it's a problem. Because if you don't, something like that, if you don't understand it, you don't have to, but you should still respect it.
That's exactly the problem, because most of those people then try to convince you of their opinion, or convince you why something that you choose to do is not right or is wrong in their view.
I think the best example is that we're vegan. And in Austria,
or with the masks right now, or with the masks, that's a big issue everywhere right now. A lot of people don't wear masks anymore, and that's fine. If you're not required by law or by the store or whatever, don't wear a mask. That's okay. But also don't look at people weird if they wear masks. Yeah. I mean, it's their choice. That's it.
Yeah.
And with the being vegan thing, that's the same thing. I mean, I don't want to...
Especially here, I think in the US we would get less crap for it, because it's so much more accepted. But
it's a continuous fight. It's every time we go out somewhere, every time we are with family, we get either a weird comment, or we have to explain it, or one of them says like, "You just eat a little bit of that," stuff like that. And I mean, granted, it doesn't affect me as much anymore. Or what do you even
eat?
Yeah. Or it doesn't affect me as much anymore, but
it doesn't for me either.
Gets to a point where it's just like, okay, it's enough. I'm not judging you by your lifestyle choices, and I wish that my choices that don't affect you at all, like not at all, are also respected. Yeah. And that's the biggest issue for me, because I feel hurt by that. I really feel hurt by that, and that's when I get angry, because I feel like, okay, I'm doing all that stuff that I'm doing for myself that doesn't affect you at all, and I'm not forcing you into something. But on the other side, you do the complete opposite. You question it all the time. You try to convince me of your lifestyle, of what is wrong with my thing. And it's frustrating.
But I think a good way to, and this is what I do with people, because I get that stuff too, because I mean, we're both vegan. And so that specifically I get a lot of too. And I also used to get really frustrated by it and annoyed by it. But now what I say to people when they say something like that, when they say, "Oh, but you're missing out on something," or "Oh, you're not getting enough of this," or whatever, I have stopped trying to like educate them, because that just adds to the problem of proving each other wrong and all of that. Yeah. I just say, I get everything that I need, and I'm satisfied with my choices to do it. And that typically ends the conversation, because then they can't say anything against that. They can't say anything against, "Oh, you're not satisfied with it," because they can't. I know. And so I think for you, that would be a good thing.
No, totally.
Because it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to tell somebody that you feel disrespected by them saying that, because it's good for them to know that. But you can also just say, and it's my choice, and I'm healthy, and that's what matters to me.
I've written down some things that I usually, in the situations where I remind myself of, like questions that I can calm myself down, like how important is this fight or this argument in the grand scheme of things, or is it really worth getting angry about it? like certain topics are just so stupid, and why do you get angry about that? And sometimes stress or like other issues play into that, or even things that you take from other fights or like other problems that you maybe had this day, and that like worth ruining the rest of your day, or is my response appropriate to the situation? Like, yeah, stuff like that. And I think that helped me a lot to get rid of unnecessary anger in situations where it's not like super appropriate. But the thing is, I know the times I get really angry. I know that most of the time, or almost like all the time, it had nothing to do with the situation. It had more to do with how I felt that day. Was I stressed? Is something else going on that bothered me, or is there something else that just is swinging along the last couple of days that I didn't talk about? And I think that's a big issue, because not talking about feelings is especially for men. I think that's a big issue why they get angry so much, because they don't feel understood or they feel misunderstood. But if you don't talk about your feelings, how is it possible that someone understands you?
Well, I think there's such a big stigma around men having emotions, and that like boys don't cry and all of these, which I think is such bullshit, because I think the strongest men, like emotionally, are the ones who are in tune with their emotions, the ones who can talk openly with their partner about their emotions and what they feel, and to be able to express those things, I think is so important as a human being. Yeah. And whether you're male or female or however you identify, feelings are feelings, emotions are emotions. Everyone's got them. Yeah. Some people feel them heavier. Some people feel them sometimes not very often. Yeah. But to be able to acknowledge them, I think, is really important.
And that's something I also need to work on, because I'm not the best person to just talk about my emotions and my feelings.
And my side of it, I mean, it's gotten better, but I used to maybe do it too much, where everything that I felt the need to talk about.
That's true.
And instead of just, okay, is this something that needs to be talked about, or is this something I can kind of work through on my own, or is this something that will go away in a couple of hours, or and that's, I think, gotten better. But I mean, what you had said about sometimes like other factors affect how you get angry and when you get angry. And so sometimes our fights are just like bad timing. Yeah. But on my side of it, that's actually pretty rare. I typically, and it's not to say it never happens, but I typically am pretty good about leaving outside factors out of the equation. So if I get angry in a situation, it's because of the situation. And the thing I'm trying to learn is how to not, first of all, I'm trying to figure out like where it comes from, because I don't honestly really know.
I mean, it kind of lies in your family a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, genetically, I guess there's something there.
But, I mean, that's something that you can probably work out or work through. But I think stuff like that is always easier to talk to a therapist about.
But I wish I could understand why I go from, I mean, I know what my triggers are. I know what things make me go to that point, but I don't know why. I don't know why I do, if that makes any sense.
I think, I mean, it's the same for me. I think the whole, I mean, understanding is a big thing, but at the same time, I think it's also really good to just be in tune with yourself and just zen about stuff. And I think that also will reduce your anger. Like if you meditate, if you just go deep in yourself, because then you can already resolve a lot of stuff that is heating you up, or that is not like, that is weighing on your mind, I think. But I think there are other stuff that you can do.
Well, before we go into that, I just want to quickly mention that, so just the effects that anger can have on you in multiple ways. So it can affect your physical health by raising your blood pressure. You're more susceptible to heart disease, insomnia, weakened immune system, things like that.
Yeah. So basically a lot of anger can kill you, literally can kill you.
Yeah. It affects your mental health because it consumes such a huge amount of mental energy. If you think about when you're angry, you're using all the energy that you have and you're focusing it, every single bit of it on that anger. Just think about the last time you were angry, and that's all that is in that moment is that anger. There's nothing else.
And then also the time to calm down. It takes you a while to just calm down and
and sometimes it stays around a little bit for a couple days. Like it's still there, but it clouds your thinking. It makes it hard to concentrate. Especially if like you're having a big fight with somebody, but you have to work, it makes it really, really hard to focus on what you have to do. It leads to stress, which can also lead to depression and all of that.
And especially if you're already stressed, and that's not a good combination.
And obviously it affects your relationships. It can leave lasting scars, especially when there's hurtful words that are said or physical violence or anything like that leaves scars for a really long time. And what I thought was interesting is that I read that it affects others' ability to trust you. And that's a really interesting point, I think, that I never really thought about. But anger between somebody, if someone's has like rage issues, or when you get into these fights of just yelling and screaming at each other, it can affect your trust, because at least for me, I think in those moments, okay, he's screaming at me, and I'd feel in those moments like he doesn't love me, he hates me. How can he be talking to me this way if he is in love with me? And so that makes you kind of go into this spiral of maybe there's somebody else, or maybe he's done with the relationship, and that causes trust issues, I think.
No, totally. But there are also some good ways to calm yourself down in those moments. And for example, one is just focus on your physical sensations.
Like in your body.
Which might be weird, because when you're super angry, focusing on like your body
kind of seems counterproductive.
But at the same time, it doesn't, because it focuses you on the present, on the what is going on right now. And you might feel like super tight fist or like teeth clenching and stuff like that. And with that focus, you are brought back to now and not being like super in your head, so that helps you. Deep breaths, that's the same thing.
But like deep, like from your abdomen, so like really deep, like fill your lungs as much as you possibly can before you let out the air.
Basically the same when you do yoga or something, where you like super get back to the now and to the present. Get moving. I mean, that's something that helps me, like just for a run, workout, or
just go for a walk around the block. It clears your head. Fresh air is good for your brain.
Yeah. And then use your senses. That's the same thing, just to be present in the now. Listen to the birds or to a song, or touch something. Or
look at a photo that you love, something that brings on good feelings and gets you out of the bad ones.
And another thing is like just stretch or massage yourself, or just like
any areas that feel tense.
Right. Just like do some yoga poses, for example. That also helps. And what is the last one?
Slowly count to 10, which I think is really good, because when we were reading about all of those things, it also said if you count to 10 and you still feel like you're really in your emotions, then you can count to 20. Just keep counting, but slowly count, because it basically lets your rational mind catch up to what you're feeling, because a lot of times your feelings are so far ahead of everything that you can't think anymore. And so when you just focus on counting or breathing, anything that's slow, just focus on it. Focus on the slow things that you can do, and then your mind will catch up. And then you might realize, okay, this is not necessary for me to be this mad.
I mean, I think everyone has like their little ways to get out of the anger. And the best way, if you're in a relationship and you fight with the person, you get angry, just try to get out of it and manage it in a healthy way, because anger in like a fight always causes problems. And it's so emotionally loaded, the whole conversation, that you can't rationally talk in a
when you're heated
good way and resolve the whole issue. I mean, sure, it's good to express your emotions and how you feel about stuff like that, but
expressing them while you're in the middle of that, of feeling them, and while you're in the middle of feeling angry and just full of rage, that's never a good time to have a rational conversation, because like we said earlier, with your mental health, it clouds your mind, and you can't have a rational conversation if your mind is cloudy.
And also, if you think about if you have kids, or if you fight in front of your kids, that's also a good point to also resolve it in front of the kids.
Yeah. If they see you fight all the time, but they never see you resolve anything, then that's how they learn. They're learning that that's just what happens. It'll just go away on its own.
Because that's something I had to learn, and it's something that I never saw in my parents when they fought, that I never saw them resolve anything. Mm-hmm. I just remember them fighting. And that's also something that is not the worst thing. And
that's why I also want us to work on our anger now, because we're getting closer to a point where we're thinking about kids, and I never want to scream, I never want to scream at you in front of our children, and I never want to, if we have an argument, and I want it to be a constructive argument where it's not loud, it's not because that's something that's important to me, that I value, that I wouldn't.
No, I totally agree.
I want my children to learn from that.
I totally agree, yeah.
So I think it's good that we work on these things now before we get to that point where we have kids.
Yep.
Because when kids come, there's more stress involved with that. And so if we have a good grip on how to manage our anger, then...
That's the goal. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. But I would totally be interested in you guys listening, if you have anger issues, or what kind of anger issues you have and what you do, or if you have like some tools, or if you have it under control, because I mean that's something that affects us all, and I think it's just the key is to learn how to control the whole thing.
I think it also leads back to if you listen to our love languages episode, it also leads back to how your partner feels things, because when you're in a relationship, you not only are doing things for yourself, but also for your partner in your relationship. Yeah. And I think it's important then to talk about what things trigger your partner, and what things do you do that trigger them, and what things do they do that trigger you, because knowing those things, I can try to then avoid the things that I know trigger him, because anything I can do to help, I want to do.
That's true.
So it's not to say that it's on me to fix his anger issues, and it's not on him to fix mine, but we can help each other. And that's a good way to help each other.
That's, again, just be open, talk about it. And also, like, after a fight, or like in a non-heated situation, talk about it and say like, hey, if we get to the point again, I just need that from you, and vice versa. So you have already some like little things you can implement.
I mean, a good example is, so for us at least, if we get to a point that's super, super heated, I really need to talk. And I know I've learned, and I'm still learning, that talking in certain moments is not constructive. You need to wait until things are cool. And Wolfgang tends to need space, because he needs the time to cool down. He needs to be able to think about it before we talk, and to be able to come back to it more calm. Yeah. And so we are learning together that I need to be able to give him that space, but also not feel like my need to talk is not important. Right. Because that's what's harder for me to understand, that I in the past I have felt like, okay, I'm losing because he gets what he wants and I don't get what I want. But technically, and how maybe you can explain it better. I mean, it's that it is giving what you want. It's
pulling on the same string. It's trying to resolve the issue together.
Yeah. And you need that time, not just for you, but for us.
No, exactly.
The time that he's taking is not selfish. The time he's taking is out of love for the relationship.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't get more heated.
Exactly.
So that's things that we're learning together. Still have not mastered, but we're learning.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for listening and for giving us a review. If not, please do. Or just subscribe. That would also help us a lot. And share the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you do. Just
tell family and friends that you think might like it.
Yeah.
To also listen.
That would also help us a lot. Message us, please, if you have questions or feedback or anything. You can find the Instagram handles in the description and the email on our website. Yeah. Thank you for talking.
Thank you for talking.
And we see you guys soon. Or you hear us soon.
You hear us soon.
Bye.
Bye.